Please give it up for Mr. Aaron Wolfe.
So when I was 18, I moved to Israel to live on a kibbutz for a year. If you don't know what a kibbutz is, it's this like kind of collective farm in the middle of nowhere, and I had been told that it was this kind of gathering place of like the intellectual laborers of the world. Like I thought I was going to go there and like kind of work hard at night, and then in the evenings kind of have these like polyamorous orgies with these like beautiful exotic women of the world. And I wanted that, but mostly I wanted like a change from my suburban bullshit boring existence in Teaneck, New Jersey. And so I found my 5 best friends from Teaneck, New Jersey, and the 5 of us went and tried to have a different experience together in Israel. And we immediately learned that the kibbutz is not adventurous at all. We wanted this adventure, and we got like a slightly less Jewy Long Island suburb. Like it's big Ronkonkoma with fewer synagogues. It's terrible. And there was like labor. I worked 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, but at night when the polyamorous orgies were supposed to start, like I had this kind of like steady girlfriend, and she was sweet, but she was Canadian, and despite Robin's protestations, on the like scale of exotic Canadian chick that you went to Jewish summer camp with is like really, really low. And with 2 weeks left in my year, I knew I had to kind of shake things up. So I took a page out of the playbook of 1950s Ronkonkoma housewife or any character from Mad Men. I decided to cheat on my girlfriend. I went to the kibbutz disco, which was this like barn that's like played techno music on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I found an Australian girl, and I made out with her for a while. And then, because I am ruled by guilt and shame, I went straight to my girlfriend and I apologized. And she quickly became my ex-girlfriend, and then even faster than that became my murderous ex-girlfriend, and I completely understood. But now there was a complication. I had 2 weeks left, and the next day, my 5 friends from home and this girl and I were supposed to go to Daha, which is this town in the middle of the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. And we're going to go and sit on the beach for a week and get stoned. We might actually have like a real adventure, and now I had fucked this up. And I had fucked it up for 2 ways. First of all, I was a fuck up in love and relationships, but also I was a fuck up in international travel. Everybody else had renewed their visas like months ago, and I had not. And this like burly kibbutz dude had told me that if I leave the country and come back in on a expired visa, I was going to be in jail for 2 weeks at least. And the second problem was the bus ride to Daha was 10 hours, and I wasn't sure I was going to survive 10 hours with the murderous ex-girlfriend. So I thought quickly, and I said, why don't you guys go ahead, and I'll meet you there. And while they were going down on the bus, I was going to take care of my visa shit, and then I'd just go down by myself. And I thought at the very least, this trip down to the Sinai Peninsula on my own will be an adventure. And the next morning they leave, and I go off to the Ministry of the Interior. And if you're picturing like this kind of like modern building, don't. Okay, Israel in 1995 was sort of a first world like modern place on the outside. As soon as you interact with any kind of bureaucracy, it was the third world. Like this building, you step through the threshold of the building, you go from Switzerland straight into Nicaragua, like in a second. And I walk into this room, and it's like packed, and there's this like, everybody's smoking, and it smells, and it's hot. And I scope out the employees, and there's like 2 enormous dudes with their shirts open to their belly buttons. And then there's this woman in the back, and she must be the boss. She has to be the boss, because her face looks like the backseat of a Buick Skylark. She's this like leather iguana lady with lipstick on, and she's smoking a cigarette, and she goes, next. And I walk up to her, kind of nervously, and I like hand her my passport, and she goes, you have an expired visa. I say, I know, I'm sorry, is there anything I can do? She goes, oh yeah, no problem, no problem. She takes out a calculator and she starts tapping away. Anytime anybody says no problem and then takes out a calculator, they're fucking with you. Because if they have a calculator, it's not going to be like, oh, $17, that's your fine. She goes, 10,000 shekel. 10,000 shekel in 1995 is $3,000. That's exactly $2,850 more than I have to my name in the world. 100 of those $150 $50 that I actually have, I got on a bet, and the bet was that I couldn't eat a cigarette. Turns out you can eat a cigarette, and it's not worth $100. But I had worked for that $100, and I was not about to turn it over to Lizard Woman. But I also don't want to go to jail. And I know that I only have one choice in the matter. I burst into tears. But Lizard Woman is unequipped to deal with human emotions, so she immediately averts her eyes and she starts like shuffling through my paperwork because she can't witness this like sad American sob factory. And she starts going through, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I can't go to jail. And she goes, Aaron, you are from Teaneck. And I said, no, I was born in New York, but I moved to like the suburbs, it's awful. And she goes, do you know the Goldfarbs? I'm like, no, I don't know the Goldfarbs. And she goes, do you know the Goldfarbs? No, I don't know the Goldfarbs. She says, do you know the Goldfarbs? Yes, I know the Goldfarbs. She goes, Amos, he knows the Goldfarbs. And one of the fat mountain men turns over and goes, hey, you know Avin Eitan? And I'm like, Avin Eitan Goldfarb. Yes. Yes, I know them. And boom, she stamps my visa, hands it back, and she goes, what a country, huh? And all I can think is like, third world banana republic, but like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm getting on the bus, I'm gonna get to Dahab, I'm gonna get to my friends, I'm gonna have this adventure finally after my 10 months. I get to Eilat, about 5 hours later, we cross the border, and suddenly I'm in an entirely different world. Traveling into Egypt from Israel is incredible. You go directly into a different universe. It's dusty, it's hot, there's people everywhere, there's people pushing and pulling and noises and smells that I'd never heard before. And next thing I know, I'm like yanked into a taxi cab, which is like a BMW station wagon that's been retrofitted to fit like 10 people in the back, and there's 15 of us squished in, and everybody's yapping away and screaming and yelling at the driver, and the driver's yelling at everybody else, and then finally he turns to me and he says, where are you going? And I say, Dahab, and he goes, and then boom, we take off. And when I say boom, we take off, I mean, we fucking take off. It's the middle of the night, there's not a light anywhere in the desert, but the Egyptian cab drivers have these this sweet little quirk of theirs, which is that they drive without their lights. So it's to conserve their batteries or something, or just to prove their manliness, they navigate by starlight, and every time a car comes towards them, they flash their brights once, the other car flashes back, and then over and over again, every 15 seconds, at 50 miles an hour, it's I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. Oh my god, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. And to make matters worse, he's blasting this Egyptian pop music. So I'm like, I'm gonna die while this dude screams about his love for Fariba or something. This is awful, and it's over and over again, and finally we screech to a halt. And in the middle of the road is an Egyptian soldier, and he's holding an AK-47 standing next to a small metal chair with a boombox on it. And he walks over and he goes, passports. And everybody quickly turns over their passport, and I turn over my passport. And he goes through his stuff, and he's like, walks over to the front of the taxi. Excuse me. And the taxi driver starts yelling at him, and he starts yelling at the taxi cab driver. And they're yelling back and forth, and the radio's yelling about Fariba, and it's terrible, and it's all getting very, very scary all of a sudden. I don't know what's going to happen, I don't know what they're yelling about, but I know that it can't be good. And then finally the cab driver goes, okay. And he hits eject on the tape player, hands him the tape, the soldier smiles, walks back to his folding chair with his boombox, hits eject on his, comes back with the new tape, gets to the bus, to the cab driver, and boom, we're off. And immediately I know what the fight is about. Because now we are shuttling through the desert at 50 miles an hour with the one song on this tape. It's a single of Elton John's Crocodile Rock. Over and over and over again. So literally it's, I remember when my boom, I'm gonna die. Boom. You know, over and over and over and over again. And now I'm praying for death. Finally, we reach Dahab, and I get out of the car, and I'm like these shaky legs, I'm terrified, and I just want to find my friends, and I walk through this weird dark alleyway into this big boulevard, dirt road kind of thing, and there's camels everywhere, and I find them at the end in this cafe. And they're sitting there, and I sit down and I look around all of these friends of mine from home and then the murderous ex-girlfriend, but I'm happy to see them all. Because this is what I want. I don't want the adventure anymore, I just want them. And I know that it's me that put all of this shit between me and them. But now I'm here. And my friend leans over and he hands me a cup of tea and he says, man, that's Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, fuck, that's Saudi Arabia. And another friend says, that's the red fucking sea. Oh, fuck, that's the fucking sea. And then the murderous ex-girlfriend leans over, and in her right hand is the biggest joint I've ever seen in my life. And on her left hand is like a Swiss Adonis that apparently she's sleeping with now. And she hands me the joint, and I take a really, really long pull of it. And she leans over, and I think she's gonna kiss me, but then she whispers in my ear, I dreamed about killing you last night. And then she and the Adonis walk off down the road. And I see the sign that she was sitting in front of. And the sign says, the penalty for smoking marijuana in Egypt is death by hanging. And then I see the cop behind the sign with an AK-47 smiling and giving me the thumbs up. And I think maybe my adventure is just starting. Thanks.